Welcome to this short episode of Being the Head, the human cost of leading schools, and welcome to the new start of the academic year. I'm Jacqui Lemaitre.
And I'm McElley. In today's short episode, Buried Under the Busy, we're talking about workload, how it creeps in, how it crushes, and what you can do about it at the start of this new school year.
According to the NEU's 2024 State of Education report, 86% of teachers and leaders say their workload is unmanageable, and 1 in 3 heads are actively considering leaving the profession due to workload alone.
1 in 3, that is really quite frightening. That's really frightening, isn't it? Yeah, when it's so hard to sort of recruit. For goodness sake. And in the recent education support survey, senior leaders averaged 57 hours a week, and that's even before evening emails. And I actually think that's quite a conservative estimate.
I totally agree.
I remember doing this once, actually counting, and I think how many hours I did. And I think I'd worked out I was doing between 75 and 80 hour a week. And I don't think that's out of the norm. I don't think that's out of the norm, though, Jacqui. You must have counted up those hours.
I don't think I ever counted it up, Jane. Did you
not?
All I remember is the amount of hours that I used to do. So I would have my evening meal, and then I would sit down, and the telly would be on in the lounge, and I would be dual screening, and I would just sit there doing emails all evening. And then I got to the point where I discovered timed emails, which is probably even worse. I mean, it's the worst thing, isn't it?
Scheduled emails.
Because it means you can work till whatever time and nobody knows what time you're working to. Because at least when you didn't have timed emails, at least somebody would say to me, and I remember people saying, you probably had this as well. They said, do you realise what time you sent that email? Because the first thing I do is pick up my phone. And that might be like 5:30 in the morning, 6 o'clock, and I'm checking the emails, and then I would bang out another email, and then I'd forget to put it on timed, and somebody would say, do you realise what time you've actually sent that email? So, yeah, I think probably it was emails catching up, and especially if you're teaching in the day, so you're covering somebody's class or something like that, you haven't got time to keep on top of them emails, and yet you need to keep on top of them, don't you? Because if anything comes in that's of serious nature, you've got to react to it, and also you need to make sure that you've filtered the information to the right departments or
in the right areas, the right time space, in the right time. So I think
you do that then?
Scheduled emails.
Yeah.
No. Oh gosh, yeah. No, I used to come home. Well, come home. I'd have the food, walk the dogs, and then I'd sit down, and then I'd spend the evening doing emails, because those are the things that you just can't do during the school working day, because you're, doing lesson observations, or you're working with a group in intervention, or you're dealing with a behaviour, or there's a safeguarding issue. There's always something happening, and actually, you really want to be out and about. You don't want to be in your office during the working day. You want to be seen. So it was emails, and to be honest, you're so tired by the evening that it probably takes longer to do the emails in the evening, because you're having to think twice as hard, because you're just so tired, and making sure you don't make a mistake, or you're sending it to the right person. So I think it's really
Here's a thought as well. When I used to do governors meetings till like 9:30, 10 at night, and directors meetings, which were just sit and listen meetings, to be honest. I remember I only got asked once what my opinion was in a director's meeting. But I couldn't wind down. I'd get in at 10, and then I'd be still wired at 12:30 at night, because I was still got everything going round and round and round and round in my mind. And then, so I'd start working then as well. So I'd come in from a director's meeting or a governor's meeting or whatever, and then I start working again. So those nights were the worst ones, because then you've got to be up and at it the next day. And I know people have got kind of, I don't come in till later, but I could never do that.
No.
Because I think it's about, for me, it was about that actually I need to be there for my teachers and my children.
Exactly. And being on the front gate in the morning, that's your litmus test, that's your face. But I just, like you, I had to switch off my laptop had to be switched off at 9 o'clock. If I worked till 9:15 or 9:20, I don't know what it was, but like you, my brain was buzzing and I could not get to sleep. And of course, we're up early. Look at like 5:10, the alarm goes off in our household, and I'm just
Oh, I
thinking,
can't
oh
believe
my
that.
God. Yeah, it
You're a
does.
real lark then, aren't you? You're a
Oh,
real lark.
not naturally, but when you've got children and dogs and things, and yeah, it's just, but it's hard. So I think the question for our viewers is, what does your weekly workload really look like on paper? And what part of it is actually essential? So if you actually haven't, like Jacqui, sat down and worked out the number of hours you do a week, maybe you need to do that and actually look what it really looks like on paper, and then ask yourself what's essential and what's not. I think that's a question for our viewers to really think about, because I think it's more than 57 hours a week.
I think it's all consuming when you're
Yeah.
a leader. I think it's all consuming in education. I just think you're constantly thinking how to better yourself and improve it.
I remember going on holiday and thinking, oh, that's a really good resource. I'll buy that. And oh, that'll be a really good thing to bring in the curriculum. It's just ridiculous.
Well, it's like I think I said on one podcast, is how can you ever move away from it? Because I'm still collecting pencils at the end of conferences. I don't know if anybody else does this. In my handbag currently, I think I've got about 15 pencils because I think, well, I can't got to use that. You never get away from that, actually. Dual screening is a massive thing. Emails, even though now doing what I do, I get the emails that I need to respond to. I don't get as many emails not being a CEO now, but I'm still on it. It's a very hard thing to crack, I think.
But it
Not
is.
dual screening and switching off. I think the strategies you have to have and be very, very strict on yourself to say, actually, I need to give myself that time to wind down.
I mean,
It's a bit like they're saying about screens, isn't it, now,
yeah,
that you're supposed to not look at them for an hour.
an
But
hour
I mean, I'm
before.
constantly on a screen.
It's just, I
So,
mean, one thing I picked up was, it was the counsellor I was seeing, and she said, you need to set yourself boundaries, Jane. And she says, what you need to do is put a timer on your phone. And she says, right, you need to say to yourself, right, I'm going to spend an hour or 45 minutes doing emails. And when that timer goes off, you switch off and you have to stick to it. And I started doing that, and it's worked. It really has worked. And it was amazing what I was actually able to get through in 45 minutes. So that's a tip, free tip there. And that's thanks to my counsellor. She was brilliant. Okay, classroom crisis, when busy becomes burnout. So this is probably something we've heard about a lot, but I've had one primary head tell me that I'm juggling with pupil premium reports, a health and safety audit, an EHCP panel review, and 3 safeguarding referrals, and it's only Tuesday.
yeah, it's like we're running multi-agency hubs with no admin staff. I mean, the load is massive and we have to carry on as normal, don't you? So what do you think that you've accepted as part of the job that isn't actually sustainable in the job, Jane?
Oh,
What do you
God.
think that you've just accepted?
I think it's being there for everybody. So, and it's that instant response. I think people expect that instant response. So, and you've accepted that as part of the job, where sometimes it's probably, no, you don't have to give them a response because you need time to think. I think it's also maybe safeguarding. There are some safeguarding, perhaps referrals that come through that maybe another DSL, maybe those high level safeguarding concerns you deal with as a head teacher. But if it's something that's not high, maybe that you delegate that down to a deputy DSL, because otherwise, how are they going to learn? How are they
Yeah.
going to get the experience if you don't delegate that down to them? But more importantly, do you actually have to deal with every safeguarding referral that comes through? You should have it built into your culture that there is like that you have an oversight of it as a leader in your school, but actually you've got other DSLs there that are trained to the same level. Learn to delegate. I think you don't have to take on everything.
But I think it's giving yourself permission. And I think it's having that conversation with the people that you value most, who are your confidants. You know, you've always got somebody out that you are not going to respond to things unless it's a safeguarding, because safeguarding just everything, doesn't
Yeah,
it? So
absolutely.
we know that for whatever. But actually having those conversations that I won't be sending you emails at da 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 da. They might come through at after 8 o'clock in the morning, but not before. And having that on your emails that, you know, we respect the well-being of our staff, so there will be not a response, but also having that conversation with governors and directors, because I don't think sometimes I got the impression that if I didn't respond to something, I was being judged poorly because I didn't respond. And that was a reflection on my ability to do the job. And I think we've got to shift that away now to say, actually, it's not a reflection on me. It's actually a positive reflection on me if I'm able to put in boundaries that says, do you know what? In order to do my job, I need not to be on my emails at 10 o'clock. And actually, governors and directors meetings shouldn't be going on till 9:45 when I got an hour to travel back home. And then I'm not going to wind down till 1 o'clock in the morning.
And you've got to
So
be
it is
back in
about
school.
negotiating. Yeah. It's about negotiating that. But I think when it worked well is when I had a really good group of governors who understood that and understood the pressures that you were under, and you could negotiate with them. When it fell apart was when I was expected to be in 3 places at once, and you could never be in 3 places at once. You know, I was expected to be on 3 playgrounds at once, and being and of course then there was all the governors meetings and whatever, and they're all in the evening. Whereas now I think we're a bit more, I don't know, the listeners will tell us whether this is still going on, whether this still goes on at the, you know, these long meetings for the sake of the meeting and not for the sake of raising standards in the schools. I mean, that's what you've got to ask yourself. What I'm doing actually going to make a difference to children in my school? If it's not, I'm not going to do it. But it's very hard to do.
I know, but that's the
Very,
one
very
thing
hard
I
to do.
remember you saying to me when I first started out as headship is, Jane, don't do every course. If you're going to get something back from that course, then go on it. If you're not getting anything back from that course, then why are you bothering going? And it's actually something I've followed, because if I'm not getting, it's a waste of time. I have sat on courses where I've sat and written a list of things that I've got to do when I get back because I'm not getting anything from it.
I mean, now I run courses and do heads briefings and things like that. I'm so aware of that myself that I wouldn't want to pull them out for a day unless it was going to make a difference to the children in their schools. So we make sure that it's jam-packed and it's really productive for them. But sadly, I think sometimes they're just way off the mark. I mean, I think the health and safety one was, when I first became a head, was the most interesting one.
Oh my God.
That's the expectations of the head of a small school. You've got to know how to unblock a toilet, clean the leaves out of the guttering, and grit the playground all at the same time, haven't you?
Oh God.
It was bonkers. I do know how to change a ball cock, though, Jay. I do. That's something I learned in a small school. So, oh, yeah, if only. Right, we're on If Only We Knew. Boundaries aren't a weakness. I think that's massive. I've learned that over time, but it's taken me a long time to learn that. That if only I knew how respected I'd feel for setting limits, I would have done it a lot sooner.
I think I'm the same. I thought I just kept saying to myself, if I work more, put more hours in, work harder, I'll get more respect. Actually, you don't, because people don't see the hours you put in. But the toll that it takes on your own well-being is massive. And your boundaries, by having those boundaries, doesn't make you any less of a leader. It actually makes you one worth following. If you cannot model that good well-being and develop that culture within your schools, how are you expecting your staff to do it? They're not going to do it. So I think
No.
our listeners need to think about, where are they losing time? Where are they losing that energy or attention? And what boundaries do they need to set this week? And start with small boundaries. It's not, massive boundaries, but small steps, and just make a small step, a small change. And the difference would be quite remarkable. Like I said to you before, having that timer on my phone was massive, a massive change.
I think that's one of the things that I would have taken away had I known about it, to put that timer and say, right, I'm going to put down tools at a certain time and not be working at whatever time, and give myself that wind down time, which I never really had. It will be laptop shut, off to bed. You know, if I'd had that time again, I would definitely put those boundaries in place.
But you have to
So,
practice
yeah.
more. So I had to practice putting that into place at home. So
Right.
so it was like, she said, like, start off with sorting out your drawers. So I love tidying. I love tidying and organising, and I can spend all day doing it. So she said, no, give yourself half an hour. And after that half an hour, whether you finished or not, stop. And that was really hard because one time I hadn't finished doing it, but I thought, no, I have to stop. It's about setting those boundaries and sticking to it. So you learn. It's not easy, but it is so worthwhile. So worthwhile.
I think we can do that with little things, isn't it? I mean, I know you do your yoga, don't you? And you do
Yes.
that, and
Yeah.
you set time aside for that. And
Yeah.
I'm very stickler for mine now. I mean, it's leaked a little bit at the moment, but I am a stickler for, like, I will exercise. And I've always been, this is the time I'm going to exercise, because I do get that buzz from it. But I think you have to start with little things, don't you? And then
Yeah.
build it up as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good advice. So, ask the heads then. There are things that you can change. What can you actually do about workload? We've put together our little short list of things that you could do. So, the first one is streamline. Cut meeting times in half. Trial a no meeting Friday. I mean, streamlining them would be great. It's an hour and that's it. What we don't get done in an hour, we don't get done. So that actually was one of the things I think I learned very early on, that if you run a course and you say you're finishing at 4:00, you finish at 4:00. You say you're finishing at 3:30, you finish at 3:30. Because I know how I used to get very frustrated sitting if they rambled on. Yeah, anybody must get frustrated if people are just going on and on and on. If you're saying you're going to finish. So streamline that, cut the meeting times, delegate. Is there a deputy head teacher who can lead that assembly, and trust them to do it? That's the other thing. Being a control freak and trying to do everything all of the time is not going to help you or your school. So make sure you do. I know that's really hard. I was never good at that, delegating, because I thought, well, I can get it done half the time and I know it's done. And very difficult at that, to give those things over to somebody to deal with. But delegate. Pushback. If the trust wants a 20-page report, ask why. What's the purpose? What's it going to be used for? And also push back on things like DFE and local authority. I remember being a CEO and being asked for the same report from about 5 or 6 different departments, because their systems and processes weren't in place in order to share that document. So it was about having to do the work. And look at that as well. Look at where you're being asked to do something that actually, really, is that something that you should be doing? Or is that something you can delegate, or that you can challenge? That comes with experience, so, as well, doesn't it, Jane?
Yeah, absolutely. In confidence, really.
Yeah. Change the language. Replace I must with do I need to. I used to say to myself, is this going to raise standards? And one of the things I did very, very early on is I didn't get into questionnaires or surveys or can I just come and see you business. That's another one, isn't it? They just take up your time to come and sell you something in your school, when really you're better off just doing your research yourself. But they want to come and see you. So it's a few strategies there: streamlining, delegate, push back, and change the language.
Yeah. And I think, just as I said before, start with one thing, start with small steps, and each step is a win. So another thing that we would like you to do this week is, I want you to think about, if you delegated or deleted just one task for this week, the start of this new academic year, what would it be? And I think it's going back to the start of what we started with. Is it essential? So what one task would you delegate or delete for this week, and what would it be?
We have a little tip for a moment of mindfulness this week, and it's a tip called walk and breathe. And it's getting away from the desk, getting away from the computer, and just walking outside for 2 minutes. Walk slowly and focus on your steps for breathing. And how do you know then when you've left the thinking mode and entering just a survival mode? So, how do you know when you're doing that? So, just associate that with, am I in thinking? Am I in survival mode as well?
I think that's really key for people to recognize those signs, because if you can recognize that and be aware of that, then you'll be able to catch yourself and actually do something positive to address it. That's hard. That's really hard. Okay, so in my school bag, one thing to try this week. So this week, we're recommending a workload whiteboard in your office or your staff room. And what we want you to do is we want you to ask your team, what's one thing that they've always done that could be stopped or simplified? And capture the ideas and trial that change and share the impact. So workload is really one of those things in all the surveys that we've looked at and we see in social media, that is the one thing that teachers and senior leaders are always talking about. So get them involved, put a workload whiteboard and ask them what is one thing that they've always done, or the school's always done, that could be stopped or simplified. And capture those ideas and be brave and trial one, and then share the impact. And we'd love to hear actually what you've done and what the impact was, because that would be really good to share with the rest of our listeners, because it's about sort of learning from one another.
Yeah. And we don't need to do more. We need to do less better. And that's what we want you to take away from this episode. Don't do more, do less better. So if today's episode has hit home, share it with a colleague. Let's normalize these conversations, not just in a podcast, but in the staff room.
And remember, your leadership doesn't have to cost you your work-life balance. Sustainable leadership is good leadership. And remember, you're not alone. As Jana Kingsford stated, balance is not something you find, it's something you create. And that is so very true.
We'll see you next time on Being the Head.
Real leaders, real talk, real moments.
Thank you.